Jackson Cain's Case of the Purloined Prophecy 5. Dream What May. Half of my mind told me there was nothing in the book that could possibly be real, much less true. The other half of me feared it was true, that dark things were coming, and they had a power like unto a god, and that power would come with them. I lay in my bed and let everything go, dropping myself into one of those deep, meditative states. It let me fall off into sleep, into the darkness, and let my subconscious ponder over my problems. A dream. I knew I was in a dream, in a space that was like an endless warehouse with a black stone floor and a light streaming down upon two chairs. One of those chairs was empty, yet the other held a slight, young, dark-haired woman. Swirls of luminescent white mist flowed through the space outside the light's influence, masking whatever else could have been in the room, if anything. "Well, look at you," she said in a light Irish titter, "using a power that he doesn't understand, but uses despite what he doesn't believe." "And you are?" I asked, though deep down I already knew. "And do you not recognize me?" she asked. "How about now?" And before me, she changed, just changed. One moment she sat, dark-haired, with bronzed skin, and in the next, without any transition whatsoever, she sat, red-haired and pale, lightly freckled across her nose, an Irish princess, the very epitome of the Emerald Isle. My eyes stopped. "Yes, your mum." She smiled. "No, you're a dream," I said, falling into the chair. "A figment of my imagination designed to help me figure this out." "Stupid puzzles." The woman shook her head. "Oh, I'm not going to help you with that so much, just yet. And as far as I can tell, I'm not a figment of your imagination. As far as I'm aware, I am me, a sentient, thinking being. But you could possibly be correct. I just don't know." She shrugged. "My mother would be in hell if you believe in such things," I said, frowning again at my problem, which was represented by a jigsaw puzzle featuring a picture of a full moon and a white wolf. The little woman laughed. "Why, I didn't. Oh, she didn't go to hell, son. I betrayed a fallen angel. I betrayed hell itself. So they burn you harder," I said. She's still in hell. After everything she did, there's no possible way they would not punish her. I looked back at the puzzle sitting on the table before me, which had filled a few pieces in on its own as I thought. "Someday, Jackson, you will understand that no matter how far the light is from a being, there's always a path back. Most just fail to tread that path, though heaven has not yet come so far as to let me pass on. They have given me a chance at redemption through you." She said. Her eyes were sad, though. "So, is this what they do to people who betray hell? If you aren't allowed in heaven, and hell bans you, what then?" I asked the figment next to me. "I've been attached. Souls with no place are forced to live in torment, watching the living live, watching what they can never again regain. Whatever I do, I must do with an altruistic heart or soul." She paused and thought about it. "Some attached to homes or items, or, well, those are the lost ones. But others are given a chance to attach to She looked up at me. People. So why me? And why? I mean, how did you betray hell? Exactly, I asked. Why, I saved you, she said. I failed to kill you in sacrifice. I did so on purpose, out of love. I sneered, standing. Love? Love of a mother who killed, who bled countless innocents, who took and hurt and killed for fun, for kicks, for power. That is my mother. The love of my mother would have been as unto death and torment. Someday, the little woman said, her voice quiet and tired, I will tell you of how and why I took that power when it was offered. Try, my son, not to torment yourselves for crimes that I may have been into, manipulated into, lied into. Oh yes, I discovered the truth, but by then I was corrupt. I was broken. I was reformed into a chaotic shape of myself, a version of darkness and power, like a remolded, softened candle left way too long upon the sooty coal fire on a dark winter's night. Let's just believe you are a figment and deal with the rest. Like never, I told the figure of my mother. Now, if you aren't going to help me figure this out, then please leave me be to think about it, I said, staring at the puzzle before me. In a moment. But you will find no answers here, my son, she told me. Ask the kitsune, Alice said. She will know. But beware, my son. The princess is a trap within a trap. What do you mean, trap? I asked. Princess. Werewolves are not the only beings that have prophets, boy, she said, her tone growing harsh. Well, I'll just go into normal deep dreaming sleep and you can skedaddle, I said, thinking I should walk back into the darkness where I came from in order to wake up, reset, anything to get some rest with the night I had left. You think I was just here to explain myself or convince you I was real or weren't an evil being? She shook her head, and I found myself stuck in the chair, unable to stand. Child, I am here to give thee thy birthright. What birthright? I growled. Murder and blood and death? I didn't answer before I answered myself. With my parents, what else could I inherit but chaos and destruction? Power, she said. And the simple word, that 2-syllable 5-letter word, held a force in and of itself that stopped me. I just stared at her, having no idea what she was speaking of. She sighed. I was a witch for a very long time before you were born, and you were conceived during a rite, though your father had no idea of it. That rite was magical, and heavily so, in order to keep your father from understanding what was happening. Power in the form of ritual magic flowed through you as you were conceived, and again as you were birthed. Is that what happened with Dragomir? I asked. The woman nodded. A witch must have a patron demon to channel power through her. This is why witches tend to hold power into items that may be filled with that power by a ritual and then triggered later. A wizard has a gene that allows him to manipulate the power inherited in the universe directly. Dragomir's father was a poor wizard with little of the talent. But his son has become powerful indeed. She paused and smiled. This was because of the ritual and the magic involved. So, I'm going to be a wizard? Echoes of, you're a wizard, Harry, filled my brain, though my Hagrid was a woman who tortured people for power, or a figment that represented that woman, or Look, I'm confused as it is. I'm just going to confuse you. No one is sure what you will be, she sighed and said, I cannot even tell from in here. Your touch, your power. You touch your power just by a breath, a whisper's amount. You see, not only did you get the magic from the ritual during conception and birth, but, my Jackson, you have your father's blood. Do not underestimate the blood of the first men. Your blood was literally touched by the Creator himself. There is power there. So you see, she paused, you have both the power of heaven and of hell. And, I asked, you were also born during convergence. Have you not felt different since your last day of birth, the last summer solstice? I could feel things like lies, or I could feel the viability of choices when offered. Not assess, but feel the statistical viability of a possibility, of most likely outcomes. I could see details others couldn't. And the shadows called to me. There were other things as well. Some, I told the figment of my imagination. I could feel that werewolf earlier. Feel it how? She demanded, quietly. I could feel the rage, the darkness behind its eyes. I did an exaggerated shrug. I just don't know how, but that's what I felt. And I went cold, without emotion, without feeling a thing. Like an emptiness, a hunger. She smiled and leaned back. You see, you have power that is not fully kindled, and there is not a hint at how it might manifest. I shook my head. None of this is important right now. I have to find out what this is all about, this prophecy, this case, and what the werewolves really want. Do you not? Jackson, my son, they want chaos. They are rage, pure rage manifest physically upon the world. It is a part of the curse, and it's as dark as can be. It is of your line, the line of Cain, and only you or your father can stop them. This is their dark need. Alice, the one who looked like my mother in tone. When one brings a harm to a Cain, they become cursed. Cain himself eventually became a vampire because he sought to kill himself, the first vampire, while all others who tried to kill him became monsters. The werewolf and the vampire only being the two that spread their hate as a disease upon the world. Other creatures were created in the same way, but only the werewolves and vampires spread their infection. Wait, I said, I thought Dracula was the first vampire, though she looked at me as if I were a child. Vladimir Dracul was tempted by Cain. Your father lived in caves near the old castle that the boy lived in, and influenced the Impaler from a young age. She told me with a roll of her eyes. Cain was his from childhood. She paused, trying to come up with the correct word. He was his Sherpa, I suppose you might say. Anything that Vlad had been attributed to, Cain had done 1,000 times worse. So, how is this prophecy supposed to bring about a wolf god, I asked. The witch shook her head. You must remember that prophecy is not a forecast of the future, but a list of steps for a particular result in what will happen in the future, or may happen. Many of those steps may already have been taken, and many others may need to be taken in the future, for something that may not occur for millennia. I shook my head. No, that's not the sense of it. I get. These guys seem like this business is pressing, like it's happening now. Perhaps they are trying to... She looked at me thoughtfully. No, you should talk to that fox you'll share your life with. I leaned back as if she'd swung at me. Hey, there's no sharing there. It's business and completely platonic relationship. She's only my secretary. My voice did not sound panicky. Alice of the Green smiled her beautiful smile. Perhaps, but remember, my son, some steps were taken long ago in these prophecies, and once decisions of that nature are made, they cannot be unmade. And before I could ask her just what the hell she meant by that, the figment of my imagination vanished. What other prophecy? I called out into the misty darkness. Great, I said, fuming and sitting back in the chair. I was just about to get somewhere. And what the hell did she mean by decisions already made? I'd like to know just who the fuck makes decisions on my behalf. Before I was born, even. Hell, I'm an orphan, for Christ's sake. Now I had this to worry about. I stood and walked into the mist. And as I did so, I saw many things. The face of Cain. The face of the witch, my mother. And then Kit's beautiful, rounded face. Her bright, mischievous smile. Just what do you have to do with everything? I asked aloud. Her figure appeared before me in the mist. Visions of a green garden of fantastic proportions, fading in and out, began to fade and go ghostly in the background. There appeared to be fauna and flora there, in that world of mist and magic, that were, well, fantastic. Giant mushrooms of colors too brilliant to be real. Ferns and great trees that made redwoods look like adolescent saplings. Yet, it faded in and out of the mist, as if unreal. Kit, and for a moment I thought it was really her, looked at me with concern and excitement. Are you really him? She asked as he studied her face. Are you the Cain this one was promised? And then she was gone, fading into the mist herself. And then he saw another form, one that stalked in out of the darkness, a great beast. It looked like a werewolf standing upright, yet as if the monster was larger and stronger and more grotesque than anything he'd seen on film or screen, or even imagined. You are not your father, the monster growled. Stand aside, and I will savor your flesh after I've devoured your sire. Before I could think of a response, I walked forward and watched everything fade into darkness and mist. My figment mother had been wrong. It looked like my thinking about the problem may have brought about some information after all. One does not warn away an adversary unless there's a chance that the adversary worries you in some way. What exactly about a simple private dick with only the power of a Colt 45 and a few allies would cause a monster powerful enough to be called a god fear from? Exactly. Eventually, my frustration faded into a dark, deep slumber. It was indeed troubled by dreams, but just dreams that I would not remember upon waking. I know, it gets better and better. Maybe it's just karma. I mean, I'm pretty good at being a dick after all. Here ends this episode of Jackson Cain's Purloined Prophecy. Please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know how good or bad it is, any suggestions you would make. If you enjoyed it, please consider sharing and hitting that like button. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. We're trying to reach a milestone, and once we do, we'll have things to announce. As always, remember, your life is your story. Make it a great one. Good day.